Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Beis, and in Yirtz Hashem today we will be learning Daf Nun Tes Amid Beis. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Netillas Yadayim, and we pick up today Siman Kuf Samach Beis Sif Tes. So we're on the very bottom line of Nun Tes Amid Aleph. Now, before we go into Sif Tes, let me remind you of a halacha that we learned in Sif Ches. And I believe it's no accident that the Mechaber put Sif Tes following Sif Ches, because I believe that ultimately pshat in the halacha in Sif Tes is that we are building off of the halacha of Sif Ches. Now, in Sif Ches, we learned the following halacha. We learned if somebody pours mayim rishonim on his hand. So now, he poured mayim rishonim on his hand. That mayim rishonim took the tumah off the hand. Now, his hand is tahar, but he has tamei mayim rishonim on his hand. Now he goes ahead, he goes over to the wall, and what he wants to do is, he wants to wipe the mayim harishonim tameim, the mayim rishonim that's tamei. He wants to wipe it off his hand. So if he goes to the wall and he wipes the water off of his hand, then me'ikar hadin, he has really accomplished a complete Netillas Yadayim. Why? Because with the washing of mayim harishonim, he removed the tumah from his hand, and then by wiping it on the wall, he ultimately accomplished what we would normally accomplish with mayim shneim. Why do we wash mayim shneim? Because we want to be mitaher the mayim harishonim that picked up tumah from the hand. Now, what this fellow is doing is, instead of washing mayim shneim, he wants to wipe the mayim harishonim off of his hands. So, using mayim shneim, we're being mitaher the mayim harishonim that are on the hands. Using kinuach, if we go to the wall and wipe it off on the wall, or wipe it off with a towel, we're not being mitaher the mayim harishonim, we're removing the mayim harishonim. Either way, we've ultimately taken care of the problem. Either way, we've resolved the problem of having mayim harishonim tameim remaining on our hands. Now, we learned in the Mishnah Berurah that we paskin that wiping is not the proper way to do it. We need mayim shneim. We paskin like the shittas that hold that you need mayim shneim even if you wipe the tamei mayim rishonim off his hands. But be that as it may, the halacha of Sif Ches was, now, let's say this person went, so again, he had mayim rishonim on his hand, he went to the wall to wipe it off, and he went to the wall, he wiped on the wall, now he took his hand off the wall, but the wall is wet from the mayim rishonim. And while the wall is wet for the mayim rishonim, he touched his hand back to the wall. Said the Mechaber, now he has a big problem. Why? Because now what he did was, he went and normally, mayim rishonim cannot be re-mitame your hand, right? You wash mayim rishonim, even though you have this stira, you have this contradiction, you have a hand that's tahar, and you have mayim harishonim that are tamei on the hand. That mayim harishonim that's tamei does not have the koyach to be re-mitame the hand. The tumah that the mayim harishonim took off the hand, it's a one-way street. The mayim harishonim take the tumah off the hand, but the tamei mayim harishonim cannot put the water back onto the hand. But that's only while the water was on the hand. Once the mayim rishonim that are tamei were removed from the hand, so in the case of Sif Ches, what happened was he took the mayim rishonim that were tamei and he deposited them on the wall, so now they're removed from the hand. Now if he touches it again, now it's tamei mimakam acher. Now it's tamei water that's coming onto the hand mimakam acher. Now we don't look at it as water that picked up tumah from the hand. We look at it as tamei water that's on the wall, and you went ahead with your hand and you touched tummy water. Well, that puts tumah back onto your hand. Not only do you now have mayim or rishonim that are tummy on your hand, but now mayim shneim won't even work, because mayim shneim only work on water that picked up tumah from your hand. But we don't look at this as water that picked up tumah from your hand. We look at this as tummy water haba mimakam acher. Mayim shneim can't be matami that. So in the case of sivches, you have to dry your hand and you have to start all over again. Now, we learned all of that in the previous year. We learned that in the sivches. Now, in sivtes, the mechaber is going to say the following halacha. The mechaber is going to tell you, let's say you go to wash Netillas Yadayim, and you have a foreign substance on your hand. Now, it's not a foreign substance that presents a problem of a chatzitzah. So we're talking about, let's say, miut ve'enoi makpid. We're talking about something that clearly only covers a minority of the surface of your hand that requires the Netillas Yadayim. And it's enoi makpid. It's something that doesn't bother you. It's something that you're not makpid to remove. So we have a foreign substance on your hand that does not present a problem of a chatzitzah. And the case that the mechaber gives is tzrar or kisem. A tzrar is a pebble, tiny little pebble. A kisem is a splinter of wood. Okay, so you go to wash mayim rishonim, and is a splinter of wood on a tiny spot on your finger. And again, this is miut ve'ena makpid. You don't care about it. So a chatzitzah, it's not going to make. Now, you go ahead and you wash mayim rishonim. Now, when you wash mayim rishonim, it is extremely possible that some water will go onto your hand. It will pick up tumah from your hand, and then it will go onto the tzrar or kisem. It will go either onto the pebble or it will go onto the splinter of wood that's on your hand. So now, let's do the math. You poured mayim rishonim on your hand. The mayim rishonim picked up tumah from your hand, and now that mayim rishonim became deposited on a different surface. It's no longer on your hand. It's now on a splinter of wood on your hand. Does that ring a bell? That's like the halach of sivches. You poured mayim rishonim on your hand, it became tummy from your hand, and then you deposited that mayim rishonim on the wall. So it's no longer on your hand, it's on the wall. What's the halacha that we learned at sivches? In sivches we learned that mayim rishonim timeim that was deposited on the wall, if it now comes back to your hand, if you touch the wall so that mayim rishonim comes back to your hand, it will be mitame your hand. Guess what? So too over here. If you poured mayim rishonim on your hand, and that mayim rishonim picked up tumah from your hand, and now it went onto a tzrar or a kisem, it went onto a pebble or a splinter of wood that's on your hand. You now have mayim rishonim that picked up tumah from your hand, and it was now deposited on a different surface. If that water should now come back to your hand, it will be mitame your hand. Now your hand is tummy. Not only that, even should you go now and pour mayim shneim. If you pour mayim shneim on the hand while that water is on the splinter of wood, the mayim shneim can't be matarit. The mayim shneim could no longer be matar that water, because mayim shneim could only be matar water that's on the hand, not water that's on a different surface, and it's on a splinter of wood. So just do the physics. If you take now mayim shneim, and so again, the tamei mayim rishonim water is on a splinter of wood, right? If it rolls off the splinter of wood and it goes onto your hand, it's going to be matame your hand. So now your hand is tamei all over again. If you pour mayim shneim on your hand while that water is still on the tzrar or the kisem, it can't be matarit. Can't be matarit because it's not on your hand. So you pour water and it goes onto your hand, the water from the tzrar or the kisem, it's matame your hand. Even if the water went off your hand, the tzrar and the kisem, and it went back onto the hand, between the mayim rishonim and the mayim shniyim, again you have a problem. The bottom line is you were remitar your hand. And now that you were remitar your hand, the only thing you could do is dry your hand off and start all over again. Because now it doesn't matter how much water you pour on the hand. Even if you're going to, again, the mayim rishonim went on to the tzrar of the kisem, it went off the tzrar of the kisem, and it went on to the hand. So you'll say to me, Rabbi Weiss, what's the problem? You have tamei mayim or rishonim, but it's back on the hand. So what's the problem? I'll pour mayim shniyim on it, and I'll be matarid. No. Once it was on the tzrar or the kisem, and it came back onto your hand, it was rematame your hand, and now it's too late to do anything. Now, no matter how much water you pour on, you're not going to accomplish anything. So this is the halach of siftes. The halach of siftes is, when you go to wash, you have to make sure that you don't have a tzrar or a kisem that's on your hand, even if it does not present a problem of a chatzitzah, because of this problem. Because of the problem that mayim rishonim might go onto the tzrar or the kisem, and then come off the tzar or the kisem and be rematame your hand, the same way as if you touch the wall. As same way as if you took mayim rishonim and you deposited it on the wall. You have to go ahead and you need niguv, and you have to start Netillas Yadayim all over again, because you have water that came back onto your hand mimakam acher. Okay, so against the backdrop of that hakdama, let's go now see siftes inside. The bottom line on Nuntes Amud Aleph says the Mechaber siftes. Kishashayfech mayim rishonim al yadav. When you go to wash the Netillas Yadayim, and you go and you pour the mayim rishonim on your hands, tzarich lizayer, we have to take care, shalo yishaer al yadai tzrar or kisem, that there should not be any kind of pebble or any kind of dirt on your hand, oy shum davar acher, or anything else for that matter. Why? She'en mayim mitarin ela mayim she'al gabi hayad. Because you washed mayim harishonim, and you had a tzrar or a kisem on your hand. Now you have tamei mayim harishonim water on that tzrar or on that kisem. When you go now and you pour mayim shniyim, the mayim shniyim cannot be metaher the mayim that's on the tzrar or the kisem. Why? Like the Mechaber says, she'ein mayim metarin ela mayim she'al gabi hayad. Because the mayim shniyim could only be metaher the water that's on the hand. V'loy hamayim she'al hatzrar, not the water that's on the tzrar or the kisem. Okay, and therefore what? Therefore, what's the problem? The problem is, again, do the math. The problem is, you have tamei mayim rishonim water on the tzrar or on the kisem. The mayim shniyim cannot be betarit. When you pour mayim shniyim onto your hand, and mayim shniyim, let's say, hits the tzrar or the kisem, is the mayim rishonim on the tzrar or kisem going to become tahar? No, it's not, because it's not on the yad. Now, it gets washed onto the hand, it's going to be rematar the hand. So, rematame the hand. Just like in the previous sif, if you went and you touched the tamei mayim rishonim that you deposited on the wall. So now, your hand is tamei all over again. So now, what are you going to accomplish? You're going to pour mayim shniyim onto the hand? So you're pouring mayim shniyim onto hands that are tamei. What are you going to accomplish? Even if even if you want the mayim shniyim to act as mayim rishonim and take the tumah off of the hand, so what? Now you're going to be left with tamei mayim on your hand. You can't sit down to eat pas with tamei mayim on your hand, right? And even if you'll pour, I think, another mayim shniyim on your hand, it won't help. Because, again, this is water that became tamei mimakam acher. So mayim shniyim could never be matarit. What you need is niguv. You have to dry the hand, and you have to start all over again. And, of course, like we've seen so many times before, the Mechaber closes out the sif, and he says, V'im shoifech revius mayim ka'achas al yadai. But, as we've seen already so many times, the way to avoid so many problems with Netillas Yadayim is to make sure to wash with a revius or more. V'im shoifech revius mayim ka'achas al yadai. If you washed mayim harishonim by pouring a complete revius or more over the hand at one shot, then you don't have to worry about this. Why? Because then there's not going to be any mayim rishonim tameim on your hands. If you pour more than a revius, the tumah comes off the hand, it vanishes, and you don't have mayim rishonim tameim, and therefore you don't have this problem. Says the Mishnah Beurah, Ois Katan Samach. Ois Katan Samach Beis, back on Nun Tes Amud Aleph. Now, this is an extremely complex piece of Mishnah Beurah. There's a piece of it that's really beyond the scope of what we do in this shiur. So I'm not going to get hung up on it. But let's take a look at this Mishnah Beurah, and let's at least learn it from 30,000 feet. Says the Mishnah Beurah, Tzarch li zahir. Okay. V'em einay nizhar. Let's say you were not careful, and you did not make sure that there was no tzrar or kisem on your hand. V'em einay nizhar. V'nimtza achar hanetilo shel hashniim. And now, after you wash mayim shniim, you see tzrar or kisem. Now you see that there was a tzrar, a pebble, or a kisem, or a splinter of wood on your hand. Yadav tameis. Your hands are tamei. V'tzarach lenagvan, and you need to dry your hands. V'lachzav v'lital rishonim u'shniim kadin, and you have to wash mayim rishonim and mayim shniim over again, kahalacha. Now, the key to the hakdama that I gave you earlier is right here in chatzitzah Ois Katan Memtes. If you take a look at chatzitzah Ois Katan Memtes, the Mishnah Beurah says, I write here in the Mishnah Beurah, v'tzarach lenagvan, if after you wash mayim shniim, you discover that there was a tzrar or a kisem on your hand from the beginning of the Netillas Yadayim, from the time when you first poured mayim rishonim. So the Chafetz Chaim wrote in the Mishnah Beurah that the halacha is tzarich lenagvan. You need to dry the hands. V'lachzav v'lital rishonim u'shniim kadin. You need to start over again. Says the Chafetz Chaim in the Sharitzin Ois Katan Memtes. Why? Dumya dechazar v'naga b'kaisel. Because this is coming off the halacha of Sivches. This is coming off of the halacha of somebody who washed mayim rishonim, deposited the mayim rishonim on the wall, and then went ahead and touched it, and was metame his hand again from the mayim rishonim that went onto the wall. And what was the halacha over there? Over there, the halacha was, since you are now touching mayim tameim mimokaim acher, that mayim tameim is re-metame your hand. Now your hands are tamei again. So what are you going to do? Your hands are tamei again. Not only are your hands tamei again, but the mayim that's on your hand is tamei mimokaim acher. It's tamei from water that came off the wall. The water that remains on your... It's not like regular... You see, I know I'm repeating myself, but I need to drill this point home. Normally when you... And if I get excited, I'm going to lose my voice. Normally, when you wash the Netillas Yadayim, you pour mayim rishonim on your hands. The mayim rishonim pick up tumah from the hands. In that case, mayim shniim could be matar that mayim. But when you have tamei water on your hand that did not pick up tumah from your hand, it picked up tumah mimokaim acher, mayim shniim can't be matarit. So, for example, all the cases that we had, let's say the right hand, let's say you had mayim rishonim on your right hand that picked up tumah from the left hand. Mayim shniim can't be matarit, can't be matarit. So what do you have to do? You have to dry the hand. Sivches. You touched the mayim rishonim on the wall. Now you have mayim tameim on your hand. It's not tamei from your hand. Yes, originally the tumah came from your hand. But now you picked it up mimakam acher. Mayim shniyim can't be matarit. So too here in Siftes. If you have mayim or rishonim that went onto a tzrar or a kisem, and then it came back onto your hand from the tzrar and the kisem, first of all, it was mitame your hands, because that's tumah mimakam acher, so it could be mitame your hands. It's also mitame all the mayim that's on your hand. And you can't be matar that mayim. Doesn't matter how much water you pour on it. That's all mayim shniyim. And you can't be matame that water because that water is not tummy from your hand. It's tame, it's ba mimakam acher. It came from the tzrar or the kisem, which the Chavetz Chaim says in Charitzina's Mebtes is the equivalent of if it came from the wall. So you have no choice. You have to dry your hands and do over. Now comes the piece of the Mishnah Berurah that's really a little bit beyond the scope of what we do here. Says the Mishnah Berurah, however, im heisir hatzrar achar mayim harishonim. Let's say you discover the tzrar or the kisem after washing mayim harishonim before you washed mayim shniyim. Okay, so let's see. You washed mayim harishonim. We're worried that some of the mayim rishonim picked up tumah from your hand and it went onto the tzrar or the kisem. All right. So now maybe before I do anything else, I'll very carefully remove the tzrar or the kisem from my hand without allowing any of the water from the tzrar or the kisem to get onto my hand. And then I'll wash mayim shniyim. So now, maybe I don't have any water on my hand that came from the tzar or the kisem. Maybe I avoided the problem. And now I'll wash mayim shniyim. And now all the water that's on my hands are mayim or rishonim that took tumah from my hand. So the mayim shniyim could be matar all the mayim or rishonim. And now I'm done with Netillas Yadayim. Does that work? Says Mishnah Berurah, not so fast. Im heiser atzrar achar mayim rishonim, if you removed the tzrar or the kisem between the mayim rishonim and the mayim shniyim, v'shafach achar kacha shniyim, and then you washed mayim shniyim, oishe bahadachas hashniyim hutchu atzar v'kisem, or another case, when you washed the mayim shniyim, you washed away the tzrar or the kisem. Yesh la'ayin b'davar du'ulei mahani. Chavetz Chaim says tzarchian. It could be that it works. Umatzasi b'pri megadim ubebiurah agayin maram banat ala Mordechai Hashem estapkim bazeh ayin sham. Now, at face value, against the whole backdrop that I gave you of what the concern here is in Siftes, it's really hard to understand why, especially the second case of the Mishnah Berurah. So what? So you washed mayim shniyim and you washed away the tzrar or the kisem. So what? In the process of washing away the tzrar or the kisem, certainly the water that was on the tzrar or the kisem came into contact with the hand, or at least for sure it came into the contact with the mayim that's on the hand. So what do you accomplish by washing away the tzrar or the kisem? So there are those who want to say that the suffix over here is as follows. The way I presented the challenge of Siftes to you is that the water, the mayim rishonim that's on the tzrar or the kisem is the equivalent of the mayim rishonim in Sifches that was on the wall. And the same way the mayim rishonim that's tameh that you deposited on the wall is called tumah mimakam acher, and in Sifches it could be rimatame your hand. So too over here in Siftes, the mayim rishonim that was on the tzrar or the kisem is tumah mimakam acher, and it could be rimatame your hands. There are those that want to say that maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe even that mayim harishonim tameim that's on the tzrar and the kisem still doesn't have the ability to be rimatame the hand. Okay, I'm giving you a little food for thought. I'm not going into it any further than that. Weiter. On Nuntes Amid Beis, Ice Cut and Samat Gimel, Shalo Yishaer. You have to make sure that there isn't a tzor kisem remaining on your hand. Vaf kishehem refuyim. Even if the tzor or the kisem are not stuck onto the hand, they're loose. Veroy lebias mayim tachteim, so that water could certainly get under them. It's still a problem. Da psul bazel labishum chatzitzah. Because like I explained, the concern over here is not a concern of chatzitzah. We could be talking about a miyut ve'in a makbid. So the concern is not a concern of chatzitzah, elikid befarish. Ois cut and samach dalet, oishum davar hacher. Doesn't have to be a tzor or a kisem, it could be anything. Ayim b'magen avram u'sharach roinim. Da'afilu davar shebriyasai bin mayim. When the mechaber says shum davar acher, it could even be something that ultimately comes from water. We learned earlier that you could do Netillas Yadayim with things that are tchilas briyasai bin mayim. We spoke about salt, etc. Kigayin yavchushin adumim, those red worms that we spoke about earlier that we said come from water. Oisheleg ubarad, or snow or hail. Kishaloi riskan, if you didn't grind them up. Dinam kitzra v'kisem. Amnam apribagadam estapik linisheleg ubarad shaloi lif salam nimsal yadai achar hanetila. V'ayin bebir alacha bashik havdu bazeh. V'dan, you should know, the l'didan, the regila lital beravias al kol yad v'yad. Since we commonly wash, we make sure to wash with more than a revius on each hand. We don't have to be concerned about all of this. The underpinnings of the whole concern here of Siftes is that mayim shniyim cannot be mitar the mayim rishonim only when they're on the hand, but it can't be mitar the mayim shniyim on the tzrar or the kisem. The tam apsul bazehu mishum shamayim shalatzar nitmu machmas yadav. Again, the underpinning of this concern is that the mayim rishonim that's on the tzrar or on the kisem picked up tumah from the hands, and now if it goes back on the hand, it will be rimatame the hand. And the mayim shneim that you're going to pour onto the hand isn't going to help. Because the mayim shneim is only matar water that is on the hand, not that's on the splinter. So if the water came off the splinter and it touched the hand, your hands are already tummy again. Even if you'll tell me, well, the mayim went off the tzrar onto the hand, and then the mayim shneim went onto the water while it was on the hand. So what? It's too late. Once it came off the tzrar, went onto the hand, it was rimatami the hand. And once it was rimatami the hand, now all the water that's on your hand is tummy. Now, no matter how much water you pour on, you're up a creek, because that water can't become ice tummy. It's tummy. It's the mayim shniyim can't be matarit. So again, what's going to happen? The water that's on the tzrar picked up tumah from the hand. Eventually, it came back into contact with the hand. It's rimatami the hand. Now you'll tell me, okay, so what? So it's rimatami the hand. So I'll pour mayim on the hand. So instead of acting as mayim shniyim, it'll act as mayim rishonim. Fine, it'll act as mayim rishonim. Maybe theoretically your hand could become tar. But so what? All the mayim that's on your hand is tummy. And you can't be matar it by pouring more water on, because the mayim shniyim can't be matar that water. It's a vicious cycle. The only thing you could do is dry your hand. Of course, if you wash with a revius, you avoid all of these problems. Okay, I would have liked to accomplish more in this share, but it's not going to be, because if I try to push on further, I'll lose my voice, and then I won't be able to say share tomorrow. It'll be Yatsa Scharai Bevsedai. So instead, I'm going to stop over here. I mean, Hashem, tomorrow we will continue with Sif Yud.